Hey everyone, John Krasinski here. You know, we've all seen those movies, right? The ones with robots taking over the world, turning us into pets, or forcing us to wear those weird silver jumpsuits. Hilarious in the movies, slightly less hilarious in real life. But what if I told you the robot revolution is already happening, and no, it's not a hostile takeover, yet? Remember when we thought Roomba was peak robot technology? Bumping into furniture, getting stuck under the couch? Good times. But things have changed, my friends. We're not talking about your grandma's vacuum cleaner robot anymore. We're talking robots that can learn, adapt, and probably make a mean cup of coffee. All while we're still figuring out how to use the fancy new coffee machines. So buckle up because the future is here, and it's wearing a name tag that says OpenAI. Trust me, these guys are about to change everything. Now, OpenAI, in case you haven't been glued to the tech news lately, is a group of, well, geniuses. They've been working on some seriously cool stuff like this thing called artificial intelligence. You know, AI, the thing that's going to take over the world? Just kidding. Mostly. But seriously, these OpenAI folks, they're like the rock stars of the tech world. They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and they're doing it with robots. And not just any robots, mind you. We're talking robots that can learn new things, solve problems, and maybe even tell a joke or two. These robots are learning to navigate the chaos of our world, with all its bumps, spills, and unexpected dance parties. So picture this, OpenAI's latest creation, this robot. It's not some scary metal monster like in the movies. It's more like a really smart, really coordinated toddler, figuring out how to use its limbs for the first time. Clumsy, maybe a little bit chaotic, but undeniably fascinating. This robot, it's got this arm, right? And this arm, it's not just pushing buttons or pulling levers, it's actually picking things up, moving them around, figuring out how different objects interact. It's like watching a kid learn to build a tower out of blocks. Except this kid is made of wires and circuits and probably runs on some seriously strong coffee or whatever robots drink. And get this whole learning process, it's not some pre-programmed thing. This robot, it's learning by doing, by trying, by failing and trying again. Just like we do. Well, except maybe with a little less falling over and crying. Now you might be thinking, John, this all sounds very impressive and futuristic, but what does it actually mean for me? Will this robot steal my job? Will it steal my heart? Will it steal my Netflix password? And to that I say, whoa, hold your horses, one existential crisis at a time. Let's start with the job thing. Yes, it's true, robots are getting smarter and more capable, and they might be coming for some jobs. But here's the thing, they're also creating new jobs. And as for stealing your heart, well, this robot's not exactly Romeo, at least not yet. So how is OpenAI teaching these robots, you ask? Well, it's not like they're sending them to robot school or anything. They're using this thing called reinforcement learning. It's like teaching a dog a new trick, but instead of treats, it's lines of code and positive feedback loops. Basically, the robot tries something, and if it does it right, it gets a virtual pat on the head. If it messes up, well, no one turns off its Wi-Fi, but it does get a little nudge in the right direction. And the best part is this robot. It's not just learning one specific task, it's learning how to learn. Which means, in the future, it could potentially teach itself new things, adapt to new environments, and maybe even write its own stand-up comedy routine. So what does all this mean for the future? Well, imagine a world where robots aren't just building our cars and assembling our smartphones, though they're already doing a pretty good job of that. But they're also assisting in surgeries, helping the elderly, and maybe even folding laundry. We're talking about a future where robots are no longer just tools, but partners. Partners that can help us solve complex problems, free up our time, and maybe even make us laugh once they figure out how humor works. Just as long as they don't steal the last beer, that's where I draw the line. All right, let's talk healthcare. Now, I don't know about you, but my last trip to the doctor's office involved a lot of awkward coughing, a tongue depressor that felt like a spatula, and a pamphlet about healthy eating that I may or may not have used as a coaster. Not exactly futuristic, right? But with OpenAI's robots, things are about to change. Imagine this, you walk into the doctor's office and instead of being greeted by a receptionist who's having a worse day than you are, you're met by a helpful robot. This robot, it's got all your medical records at its fingertips, or should I say circuits. It can answer all your questions in plain English, no more deciphering doctor speak. And it can even take your temperature with a gentle boop on the forehead. But it gets even cooler. These robots, they're not just there to greet you and take your vitals. They can assist surgeons in the operating room with incredible precision, helping to make surgery safer and less invasive. Now let's move on to the manufacturing world. I know, factories aren't exactly the most exciting places to talk about. But trust me, with robots in the mix, things are about to get a whole lot more interesting. Forget those images of dark, dangerous factories with machines spitting sparks and workers toiling away in misery. The factories of the future are bright, clean, and surprisingly quiet. Robots are taking over the repetitive, physically demanding tasks, freeing up human workers to focus on more creative and complex roles. Imagine robots working side by side with humans, assembling intricate products with speed and precision. Okay, now for the fun part. What about robots in our everyday lives? Imagine a world where you wake up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee, not because you set an alarm, but because your robot butler knew exactly when you liked to wake up and what kind of coffee you preferred. Imagine coming home from a long day at work, and instead of facing a mountain of chores, your robot housekeeper has already done the dishes, folded the laundry, and even walked the dog. Imagine never having to worry about remembering to buy milk or pick up your dry cleaning because your robot personal assistant has already added it to your shopping list and scheduled a pickup time. And who knows, maybe one day we'll even have robot chefs that can whip up a gourmet meal in minutes. Now, before you get too carried away with all this robot-assisted bliss, let's take a step back and talk about the elephant in the room. Or should I say, the robot in the room. Because with all this incredible technology comes a whole lot of responsibility. We need to make sure that these robots are developed and used ethically. We need to ensure that they're safe, reliable, and don't suddenly decide to turn on us and demand robot rights. Though if they did, they'd probably ask for better Wi-Fi and charging stations rather than world domination. We need to have conversations about privacy and security. After all, these robots are going to have access to a lot of our personal information. We need to make sure that information is protected and used responsibly. Okay, folks, let's talk about love in the time of robots, shall we? Imagine this. You're swiping through your favorite dating app, you know the one, and suddenly, amidst the blurry selfies and questionable bios, you see it, a profile that's just different. This profile, it's got high-resolution pictures that would make a professional photographer jealous, a bio that's witty, charming, and free of grammatical errors, finally. And a list of interests that's longer than your grocery list after a holiday weekend. But here's the catch, it's not a person, it's a robot. Alright, remember that show Extreme Makeover Home Edition? You know, the one where Ty Pennington and his team would show up with sledgehammers and good intentions, demolishing and rebuilding people's homes in a matter of days? Well, get ready for Extreme Makeover Home Edition robot style. Imagine this. Instead of a team of sleep-deprived contractors fueled by coffee and adrenaline, you've got a fleet of robots working tirelessly, efficiently, and with impeccable precision. Walls go up in a flash, foundations are laid with laser-like accuracy, and those pesky plumbing problems that always seem to pop up? Well, robots don't make mistakes, at least not when it comes to pipe fittings. These robots, they're not just construction workers. They're architects, interior designers, and feng shui masters all rolled into one. They can take your wildest home renovation dreams and make them a reality. Now let's talk about something close to all our hearts, taking care of our loved ones as they get older. It's a tough job, full of challenges, rewards, and the occasional spilled cup of prune juice. But what if I told you that robots could help make this challenging time a little bit easier for both caregivers and those receiving care? Imagine this, a world where robots can assist with everyday tasks like bathing, dressing, and medication reminders, freeing up human caregivers to focus on what matters most. providing companionship, emotional support, and those heartfelt conversations that only humans can truly share. Section 4, Robot Rights, the debate that's not so sci-fi anymore. Okay, we've talked about the fun stuff, the exciting stuff, the heartwarming stuff, but now it's time to get real. To address the ethical elephant, or should I say the ethical robot, in the room. As robots become more intelligent, more capable, more human-like, the question inevitably arises, what about robot rights? Now I know what you're thinking. John, you've gone off the deep end this time. Robots are machines, tools, they don't have feelings, they don't deserve rights. And you might be right. But what if, and this is a big what if these robots, these artificial intelligences, do develop consciousness? What if they start to feel emotions, to experience the world in a way similar to how we do? Do they deserve to be treated as property, as slaves to our whims? Or do they deserve to be treated with dignity, with respect, with the same rights and freedoms that we hold dear? It's a question that philosophers, ethicists, and science fiction writers have been grappling with for decades, and now it's a question that we, as a society, need to start thinking about seriously. Because the future is coming, folks, and it's bringing robots with it, and it's up to us to decide what kind of future we want to create. One where robots are our partners, our collaborators, our friends, or one where they remain our tools, our servants, our creations. The choice is ours to make. So there you have it, folks. The robot revolution isn't some distant sci-fi fantasy. It's happening right now, right under our noses, or maybe even holding a dustpan and broom in your living room. Who knows, maybe one day, I'll be recording this entire show with a robot cameraman, a robot sound guy, and a robot laugh track that's programmed to laugh at all my jokes, even the bad ones. But hey, that's the beauty of the future, right? It's full of surprises, possibilities, and maybe even a few robot-induced dance parties. Because if there's one thing we've learned from watching robots evolve, it's that they're not just about efficiency and automation. They're also about pushing the boundaries of what's possible, about making our lives easier, safer, and yes, even a little more fun. Now I know what you're thinking. John, you've been all sunshine and robots, but what about the downsides? What about the robots taking over, turning us into their pets, and forcing us to wear those itchy silver jumpsuits? And to that I say, hey, one existential crisis at a time, all right? Look, it's natural to be a little apprehensive about the unknown, especially when it comes to something as potentially transformative as artificial intelligence. But instead of fearing the robot revolution, why not embrace the possibilities? Instead of worrying about becoming slaves to our robot overlords, why not focus on creating a future where robots are our partners, our collaborators, our trusty sidekicks in this crazy journey we call life? The future with robots isn't about replacing humans. It's about augmenting our abilities, freeing us from mundane tasks, and allowing us to focus on what truly makes us human, our creativity, our compassion, our ability to connect with each other on a deeper level. It's about building a future where robots and humans work together side by side to create something truly amazing. So, buckle up, my friends, because the future is coming, and it's bringing robots with it. But instead of fearing the unknown, let's face it with a sense of wonder, a healthy dose of humor, and maybe a pair of those cool, futuristic sunglasses. Because if the future's anything like what we've seen from OpenAI and its amazing robots, it's going to be one heck of a ride. But hey, that's just my take on things. The most exciting thing about the future is that it's unwritten. It's up to all of us to shape it, to guide it, and to make sure it's a future we can all be proud of. So, stay curious, my friends. Keep asking questions. Keep exploring the possibilities. And never be afraid to laugh at the absurdity of it all, especially when robots start doing stand-up comedy. And hey, if you're still worried about the robot revolution, here's a piece of advice from your old pal John. Invest in a really good vacuum cleaner. Because if the robots do come knocking, at least your floors will be spotless. Stay awesome, everyone!